Hello everyone. Sarah here. Thank you so much for joining me. I am continuing with my Casey's C21 sketches. Today I am going to be continuing with sketch 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 here. And I'm going to be using the February 2026 Bonus Printable from Kendra Card Challenge. This is a free downloadable, and you can get that if you are a paid membership on KCC's Patreon, and that will be in the description box below. But it pretty much has a bunch of pattern paper. It has die cuts or images and sentiments. There is a lot in those. So what I have done is I've already printed out everything. The paper that I use is a premium matte from Epson, and I use my Epson printer, and I just set it to full blast mode, and I get the best quality. I just love how it turns out. And but I'm not going to use the images in the printout because I really like to play with some of the products that I have in my stash that I just never get a chance to play with. And this time I'm going to be bringing out some Spellbinders products. And this is a small die, it has this octopus, and the reason I'm bringing out these is because if you look at the bonus printable, it is ocean themed or sea themed, and it has a lot of fun things in it. So I decided to bring in the ocean feel. So we have some jellyfish, some octopus, and I never really get to play with this die set, so I'm going to enjoy that. I also have these. These are from the advent calendar. So we have a hello, which is going to be my sentiment. I have a nice anchor, which is actually probably from one of the card kits way back when in 2021 when I used to collect them. So those are the little dies I'm going to play with, but those are just the dies. The focus is on the pattern paper and the sketches. I just wanted to bring in something that you can see what I'm going to be using. So if you knew what I was using. But everything will be pre-assembled just to make this go smoothly, and then I can show you how I make these cards. So let's get crafting. Okay, so I have everything printed and cut out. Those are the pattern papers that you should have for sketch number 6. I have put that up in the corner there. Let's start off by matting the printed layer, which is measuring 3 3/4 by 5. The sketch doesn't ask you to mat it, but I have this beautiful dark blue, and I think it will look amazing on the cream colored. Now, for all of these sketches, I am not adding the card base because I am going to be creating just the fronts, and then I can glue these to my card bases when it's time to ship them. This allows me to just have more storage space instead of it taking up because it's not as thick. Okay, so I've gone ahead and matted all of my circles using the same dark blue background as the matte layer of the center pattern paper there. As I had mentioned earlier, these are printed with my printer. I have an Epson 2750, and then the pattern or the paper that I'm using to print on is a matte. It's a premium matte by Epson. I did realize that my ink was low when I printed these papers, so some of them are a little bit duller than normal, but that's just the way it happens sometimes. But you can always just reprint them if you want to. It's not bothering me too much because there's so many layers and stuff that a lot of it gets covered, and nothing was blaringly obvious to me that it was bad. Okay, so now that we have the whole sketch completed, I'm now gluing it down to my panel, and this is going to be the card front. Like I said, I will put it on a card base later when it's time to actually mail it or give it to someone. I have done all the die cutting and all the creations of my octopus and the little sign all off screen so that we don't take up too much time. But essentially what I've done is I went and found pattern papers that not pattern papers, cardstock that matches the pattern paper. So I have this nice burnt orange octopus that I'm going to layer over top of all of these circles, almost as if they were oxygen bubbles underwater. And this happy little fella just has a little sign that says, hey, and he's going to be holding that. I'm trying to get it so that it's somewhat centered in that circle. However, I didn't want my octopus down up too high, so I think this is a good position. It allows me to see the sign easily. So that was sketch number 6, and now moving on to sketch number 7. Here is the printed paper. I have cut it all out. Now, when it comes to something like this, with a lot of piecemealing, I like to grab a piece of printer paper that's very, very thin. I don't want to add too much weight because I'm going to be cutting it. As you can see in the sketch, I put it in the corner there. There is a perfectly straight diagonal, and there is no chance that I'm going to be able to cut this each individually and have it all line up perfectly. Is just not going to happen. So let's take out a piece of printer paper. And like I said, the reason we do that is just because when you add it to your card, it's not adding too much thickness to it. We just want to glue it there so that we can cut it. So I've started at the top there and I'm working my way down. And then when it gets to that part where it says sentiment, I'm going to now work on the bottom upwards. You may be wondering why I have it reversed. It's just easier with my right-handedness to have it started on the left-hand side there. I can easily maneuver it. Once that is done, I'm going to bring out my paper trimmer and we're going to cut this on an angle. We'll start on the bottom there where the arrow's pointing and we'll move all the way up to the top. If you do that straight line where I'm showing, then you'll make sure that everything is cut and there's no white showing. Of course, if your paper is a little bit askew in the paper trimmer like this, all you have to do is after you're cut, you just shimmy it over a tiny bit and recut, and now you have the perfect piece for this. I don't want any white showing on mine, so I'm going to snip this in half and remove that white portion of the printer paper, and then we'll glue this down. I really like how this looks on this wood panel here. It really complements it and it looks so nice. So we'll glue that bottom piece up, just putting it right to the very edge. Everything should be perfectly measured. Now we'll glue this down to my cream colored cardstock. This, once again, there is no card base for now. We'll do that at another time. And you may have noticed that the hello was cut out of the center. That is because we're going to add this to our card and we're going to place that where it says sentiment on the sketch. But let's just glue this together. I'll fast forward this. You don't need to see me create this, but it's such a cute little sentiment. I always forget that I have this, but I love how it looks. And everything just has this beautiful flow to it. And now we'll just glue this down. So like I said, in the sketch, you see it says sentiment in that gray area. It's supposed to measure 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. It doesn't matter, but I'm just going to put that sentiment there. And I chose some cardstock for the hello to match the wood grain and the pattern paper behind it. Then I'm going to pull out some of my dies. These, once again, all cut off camera. And I have the anvil and some silver cardstock. I love this silver cardstock, but it is not fun to glue on. I'll say that just because you really need to make sure it dries a bit before you move it because it has a lot of wiggle room. So there is me playing around with it, trying to make sure it works. But essentially, I just wanted to cut some of that seaweed in that reddish color that kind of matches the pattern paper, having it in front and in back, kind of giving it some dimension. And then we'll have some jellyfish. I know there's no green or purple on this card. I just wanted to have some different color jellyfish. And I decided that I'll just have 3 and remove the green one. The purple stands out a little bit, but it's the ocean and I don't control what color jellyfish there are. That's my logic. So we'll just glue down this anchor. I like how everything is positioned. Once again, trying to make sure nothing moves. It will move on me like that. Like I said, it's double-sided mirrored cardstock and it's beautiful, cuts wonderfully, but it does move a little bit. So you just got to have a little bit of patience. Now let's cut down these little jellies. I love these jellyfish. They're so cute and so easy to put together. I pretty much just cut them in many different colors and then created a combination of them. And these are the ones that I liked. And we'll just create a little scene around this hello, making this ocean themed. The pattern paper that we use, this is the Bonus Printable from Kendra Card Challenge. It is free for paid Patreon members, and it is ocean or sea themed. So I decided to use some of the dies I have on my stash to work with it. There we go. So now on to card sketch number 8. I have been following the sketches to a T almost, and I normally don't, but I decided to do it this time. I have my pattern papers. So that one I just glued down, the white background. That's 4 inches by 5 1/4. That is not one of the pattern papers, but this blue and red are. So if you're following this sketch, you would have that blue, the purple, and then the cream piece that I haven't put down yet. And we're just going to place everything down, following the sketch pretty closely, just eyeballing it. And I did add a bit of padding to the background of that red one to make sure everything is flush. Now, this is supposed to be a banner. It has the little edges cut off. I'm not worrying about that. I like it better just being a rectangle. But you can definitely fishtail that piece if you would like. So this is the 3rd pattern piece for this sketch, and that's measuring 3 3/4. And I like it how it ties in with that cream background. For the banner, I will fishtail this just because I like how it looks when it hangs down like that. So I'll add that. And I chose the same color as the base of this card, and it's that cream. I'm going to add a little bit of padding to the back of that so that it does not sink down on the paper there. I will do that for almost everything if I'm remembering. And then we'll glue this down. And now you can see that the sketch is almost identical, except I am not going to put the sentiment on the bottom as in the sketch. I have my octopus. I decided to bring a pink and blue one. It was a bold choice, but I'm happy with it, how it looks in the end. The pink somewhat ties in with that dark red. I didn't want to bring in the dark red to have it hidden, so I decided to go pink. This time I'm going to bring in my acrylic block, and I'm going to let it sit there for a bit because there's so many pieces and layers. I want to make sure that it's glued down before I continue. And then I have that little sign that says, hey, once again. Going to add a tiny bit of pattern or cardstock there just to lift up that sign so that it doesn't sag. I think it's going to be okay, but this just gives it a little bit more stability, especially if that were to catch on anything. It won't pull off because it's going to have that extra glued down. And that octopus is saying, hey. If you look at that sketch, there's a tiny little heart, and I thought, hey, I have some heart embellishments. Let's put some on there. Mine are a bit smaller than on the sketch, so let's add 2. A nice medium and a nice small. I should have put embellishments on all my cards, but I actually forgot to do it. And like especially sketch 6 would have looked really cool with some sparkly circle embellishments to tie in with those big circles, but we can always add them later if we want to. So that is sketch number 8. Here is sketch number 9. You can kind of tell on this pattern paper that my ink was low. You can see the grid lines on it. But when we start gluing everything down, I'm not too worried about it. At least it's consistently straight lines, so it kind of looks like it's part of the paper. I'm going to get a little artsy here, and I'm going to give it a bit of a thicker border on the top and a thinner one on the bottom. You don't need to do this. You can follow the sketch exactly. This is a 2 by 2 inch square, and then the cream layer is 2.5 by 2.5. I said that backwards. The background is 2.5, and then the inner square is 2 inches. I have brought back that dark blue cardstock. That would be my base, and it matches the pattern paper that we're using. And that pattern paper is 3.25 inches. So if you're following the sketch guide, then you'll have that and the red piece on the bottom. And for the sentiment, I decided that I'm going to bring in that hello again, but not the shadow. I'm going to just place this in that little square, and I'm going to try to space it as much as I can to make it look okay. It's not the best. I could have probably done a little bit better, but it still looks kind of cool how that hello is there, matching the card base. It almost looks like if it was cut out of the red, but it wasn't. It has a little bit of height to it. A lot of times I will actually cut these sentiments 3 times just to create a nice chipboard thickness to it, but for all these cards, I just cut them out once. Okay, now it's time to design. I've cut all this out, and I'm going to play with the jellies this time. I'm got some seaweed, or I have some seaweed in some dark orange and a light pink. And I'm just going to position these and try to make a little scene of the bottom of the ocean and like a little crevice here. We have a little snapshot of where these seaweed pieces are just floating and growing so lovely. So now that I spent probably about 10 minutes playing with that, I cut that all out. We don't need to see me fiddle around with some seaweed. We'll now glue those down. You may have noticed that if you've watched my videos for however long I've been here, I don't use tweezers very much, and I'm getting used to it. I find that this actually gives me more control than I thought. It is a learn skill that I don't have, so I am playing around with it. So it may look a little awkward sometimes, but I'm hoping that eventually I will be an expert at tweezing. I don't know if that's the right verb. Okay, now let's put our jellies down. I'm going to try to maneuver them around just so that they look good. I don't want to have the dark over the dark per se, because the color is the same. So I'm just going to kind of maneuver these around so that it looks a little more balanced. And I think we have it. I think this is what we're going to go with here. Make sure that the pink is not over the pink seaweed and the dark red is not over the dark red rectangle or diamond shape. And we'll glue these down. This one is, once again, following the sketch very closely. There is no sentiment on this sketch, but I am going to just, like I said, place it in that little red box. You don't need to have a sentiment. You can make this purely a graphical card and put a sentiment on the inside. So there we go. That is sketch number 9. Okay, last card. Here are my pattern papers. We just have these 4 printed sections. I did bring in that big blue knitted background just for some color to break up all of that cream cardstock. So we'll start off by just measuring or placing everything down. That square is, I believe, 2.5 inches. I will then glue down as best as I can, eyeballing it, all 4 pieces. Do not be worried if you realize that you are now having a thicker edge on the other side. You'll just bring out your paper trimmer and trim that down, but just make sure that you follow the edge to edge as perfectly as you can so that at least 2 sides will be equal. Mine are not, so I am just going to eyeball it. I'm going to cut off just the smidge off of each piece and then a smidge more. Don't go crazy, because if you cut too much, then you can't undo that. Trying to glue back a sliver or piece of paper is not fun and probably not going to happen. So if you really mess it up, you can always just print these pieces off again or cut off whatever scraps you have left over. It's not a big deal. Okay, so we'll glue that down to my pattern paper that I had printed off, which is not in the sketch here, but it is that white rectangle in the image. And now we have our hello again, and I'm going to place this down on the bottom. In this sketch, you can see that there are 3 or 4 layers. No, 3 layers. You have the 2 layers and then the sentiment layer. Instead, I am just going to add the sentiment. I did forget a piece, and I will add it later once I realize it's too late, and I'll jimmy it in. You'll see me do that. But you don't need to follow the sketch exactly. I have my pattern paper, which is the colored section, so that's good. But when it comes to the grays, that is up to you what you want to do. And I decided to remove it and just have a nice sentiment on this card. I didn't want to bring any more cream or anything else into this. So here's the piece that I missed. It's just a part of the marine die set I got from that one card kit in 2021, and I wanted to use that to ground my sentiment, and I think I just die cut it in the same wood pattern paper that I printed off in the sketch here. So that orange where it says paper D, that pattern, that's the same one I used for this little border here, and I'm just going to tuck that in as best as I can because I had already glued it down, the hello sentiment, so it's okay. Now I'm going to take my anvil, no, it's an anchor, and my octopus, and I'm going to try to make it look like it is wrapped around that as best as I can, almost kind of like knotting it in so that even if it wasn't glued properly, it will stick. And then we'll glue this down, and I'm going to fill that in, that square, really filling in the whole proportion. This is one reason I love this octopus, is because it really fills in these sections, but it doesn't create this big, huge square. It kind of just fills it in and not being too obtrusive. That's not the right word. You know what I mean? It's not taking up all the space. So there we go. That is all the next 5 sketches using the February 2025 bonus printable from Kendra Card Challenge, and I'll place them on the screen here. I will have all that information down below, and next will be the last sketch, and that will be for March, and I'll do the next 5 using the March printable. And let me tell you, the March printable is very cute. So cute that I may actually use, or the images in the printable. I feel that it is, I should say, I don't dislike the images that were in this this bonus printable. I just wanted to use my own dies, but I think in the next one, let's use the whole kit. So you can look forward to that in the future. And that will be in the mid of next month, March. I do hope you enjoyed these and got some inspiration with some nice, fun ocean, sea themed cards. Until the next time, have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.